Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right. So welcome back to this third session on Nectar of Devotion. So continuing from yesterday, we started with introduction and we discussed the first verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Akhila Rasamrita Murti Prasrimara Ruchiruddha Taraka Pali Kalita Shama Lalito Radha Priyan Vidhur Jayati. And we saw the translation and purport that Srila Prabhupada wrote in 1960 to this particular verse, which was published in a Back to Godhead magazine. And Srila Prabhupada wrote such translation and purports for the first 25 verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So today we will see the commentary of Srila Jiva Goswami on this verse. Okay, and we'll also have a recap of what all we discussed. We'll probably do that first. We'll see some quotes from Srila Prabhupada about Rasa and Akhila Rasamrita Murti, about these two topics from the different books of Srila Prabhupada and his lectures. And then we'll get into Srila Jiva Goswami, and there we will be able to appreciate how Srila Prabhupada's purport, which we discussed yesterday, was actually directly in line with what Srila Jiva Goswami has written. Okay, so Srila Rupa Goswami's verse as well as Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary. So Srila Prabhupada has actually followed in an authentic and authorized way the commentaries or the work of the Goswami. So we'll be able to appreciate that today. And once that is done, then we will move on and see the other verses of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And one thing which I wanted to mention before we get into today's discussion is, yesterday I had mentioned Grantha Vibhag as referring to text 5 and 6, but actually it's not Grantha Vibhag. Grantha Vibhag means divisions of the book, which is given from 7th verse to 10th verse. Okay, so the Ashirvad or benedictions are being expected by the author, in this case Srila Rupa Goswami, from his superior Srila Sanatana Goswami, as well as he bestows benedictions to those readers who are pursuing this book. So that is Ashirvad, that is from 5 and 6. And Vastu Nirdesh, so the first verse is what we are seeing now, and this is the first paragraph of the book. So we are spending 2 classes for the first paragraph, and after this, as we discussed yesterday, we'll move on in a swift pace. And if possible, today will also, it should be possible for us. We'll be seeing Guru Vandana, Vaishnava Vandana, Ashirvad, and we'll probably be able to start with the definition of pure devotion service. We'll discuss a little bit about Anya Bhilashita Shunyam, where Srila Prabhupada explains what is pure devotion service. And we will also see the commentaries of Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur along with Srila Prabhupada's purport. So these commentaries are interspersed. Means we will not be seeing at the end, but along with Srila Prabhupada's purport, we'll also see the commentaries. And again, it's a chance for us, or it's an opportunity, we would say, for us to appreciate how Srila Prabhupada directly follows the exact words of the commentaries. So we should not think that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is verse by verse, and Srila Prabhupada has given us only a summary study, so there may be something lacking. There's nothing lacking actually. Whatever we have to know about devotion service is there in Nectar of Devotion. So we just have to follow the thread. And we have been discussing now, it's paragraph after paragraph. So sometimes just a superficial reading of Nectar of Devotion might not give us, or we might get diverted, not diverted, but we might not be able to focus on the exact thread or the exact systematic topics which Srila Prabhupada presents because of lack of our own qualification, not because Srila Prabhupada's presentation is limiting. But with this structure, our mind is logical, we like structure. So presented with this kind of structure, the idea is that we are trying to appreciate our understanding and enhance our understanding of that which is already perfect, which is this book, Nectar of Devotion. Okay, so having said this, let's see a recap. Basically, some references from Srila Prabhupada with respect to rasa. And it's kind of a recap, or it's a good reference for us to appreciate what we have already discussed in last two classes from Monday onwards, Monday and Tuesday. So this is from Taittiriya Upanishad. It's a famous verse. Srila Prabhupada quoted this many times. Raso vai saha rasam hi evayam labdvanandi bhavati. When one understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently blissful. So we have been seeing how mundane rasa is not complete, it's not proper, and it does not give us ultimate happiness. It's not transcendental, it's mundane. But the Lord is the reservoir of pleasure. Reservoir means, yesterday we discussed, no? His ocean is Akila Rasamrita Sindhu. He's an ocean. He's an ocean of pleasure. He's an ocean of bliss. So he's a reservoir of pleasure. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he quotes this verse and he says, that which is beyond imagination, heavy with wonder, and relished in the heart, shining with goodness, such is known as rasa. So it's beyond our imagination. And it's heavy with wonder because we have no experience of that taste of rasa in our normal day-to-day experience. And it's relished in the heart, which is shining with goodness. Goodness here does not mean mode of goodness, but goodness means pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva. And that is known as rasa. In the opinion of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the last word of all authoritative scripture, Sarvantima Shruti, is contained in the aphorism Raso Vai Saha, which is demonstratively a reference to Lord Shri Krishna as the infinitely expanding embodiment of divine pleasure. Sarva Bhrittamananda. So, all the Shastras, they should lead to this goal. He's also called as Rasik Shekhar, the foremost enjoyer of the mellows of love. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Damodar Goswami says that Krishna is Rasika Shekhar, is Rasa Asvadaka and Rasamaya Kalevara. He's the master of transcendental mellows. He's the taster of transcendental mellows. All the mellows are within his control and he enjoys them the most. And his form itself is made up of all transcendental bliss. Right? So this is our definition of rasa, or a summary of what we have seen already. And we also discussed about the principal rasas. Rasa means this, what we discussed now. And we have this 12 different types of rasa. So Srila Prabhupada mentions about them in different books. So he says there are 5 varieties of rasa corresponding to the different types of devotees. The 5 varieties of rasa are Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. So Shanta means the feeling of peacefulness. And Dasya means the feeling that I am a servitor of Krishna. Sakhya, the feeling that I am a friend of Krishna. Vatsalya, the feeling that Krishna is a child and I am Krishna's parental guardian. So it can be the parents, it can be the protectors of Krishna who have that feeling that Krishna is in danger without my protection. So that bhava, that affection which is expressed like this, it's called as Vatsalya. And Madhura means the mood that Krishna is my beloved. There are also 7 secondary types of rasa known as Hasya, humorous mood, which the cowherd boys had with Krishna. Adbhuta, astonishment. Veera, chivalrous mood. Karuna, compassion mood. Raudra, angry mood. Bhayanaka, mood of awe and dread, which is fear. And Bibhatsa, which is ghastliness. The 5 principal kind of rasa are permanent and constantly permeate the mind of the devotee. Whereas the 7 secondary moods are not constantly present within the mind of the devotee. So these 5 rasas are called as Sthai Bhava. So this is called as Sthai Bhava. These are discussed more in the 2nd, 3rd, specifically in the 3rd division of the book, which is the Western division. We will not be studying that, but it is called as Sthai Bhava. So Sthai Bhava is these 5, which are permanent ecstatic conditions or ecstatic relationship that a devotee has with the Lord. And the secondary rasas or Gauna rasas, they are called secondary rasas, which support the Sthai Bhava, the first 5 rasas. They are these 7, Hasya, Adbhuta, Veera, Karuna, Raudra, Bhayanaka and Vibhatsa. And they are not constantly present within the mind of the devotee. Okay, so they come and then they go. But Sthai Bhava or eternal relationship is only these 5. So one is situated in this eternal constitutional position. The eternal constitutional position is one of these five only. Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. Okay, one's eternal constant position is not Veera Rasa or anger or Adbhuta Rasa like that, no. Or Raudra Rasa or Vibhatsa Rasa. These are intermittent. They come and they go. There is a taste, but then it's not permanent. It's not the constitutional position of a living entity, right? In any case, God is a person, and if we study man's attributes, we can also know something of God's. Just as we enjoy ourselves with friends, parents, and others, God also enjoys himself in various relationships. There are 5 primary rasas and 7 secondary relationships that the living entity can have with God. Since the living entities take pleasure in these relationships, God is described as Akhila Rasamrita Sindhu, the reservoir of all pleasure. So we discussed all this yesterday. So Krishna can accommodate. If you want to love horrible things, Krishna can present yourself as Nrsimhadev. Laughter, Haribol, yes. And if you want to see Krishna as a very loving friend, he's Vamshidhari, Vrindavan Vihari. If you want Krishna as loving child, then he's Gopal. If you want child as loving friend, he's Arjuna. Just like Arjuna and Krishna. So there are 12 kinds of humors. Krishna can be accommodated with all the humors. Therefore his name is Akhila Rasamrita Sindhu. Akhila Rasamrita Sindhu. Akhila means universal. Rasa means mellow, humor, and the ocean. Just like if you try to find out water and if you go before the Pacific Ocean, unlimited water. There is no comparison how much water is there. Similarly, if you want something and if you approach Krishna, you will find unlimited supply. Unlimited supply, just like ocean. Therefore, it is said in Bhagavad Gita, Yam labdha chaparam labham manyate nadikam tataha. If anyone can approach or gain that supreme absolute, then he will be satisfied and he will say, oh, I have no more hankering. I have got everything complete in full satisfaction. So this is what Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita. No? Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyam mama vartmana vartate manushapada. So as people surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly. So Krishna being the reservoir of pleasure, the devotee or the living entity can reciprocate in any one of these humors and Krishna will reciprocate accordingly. It's actually up to us in which rasa we want to relate with Krishna. So we can enjoy Krishna's loving service in so many ways, not only by the embrace of the gopis, but in the fight of Bhishma with Krishna and piercing his body with arrows. Therefore Krishna is Akhila Rasamrita, anyone rasa. Right? This is a very famous example where Bhishma Dev is fighting with Krishna. Bhishma Dev is primarily said to be in, actually Shri Jiva Goswami mentions this in Priti Sandarbha. And he says that Bhishma Dev is primarily in Shantarasa with a mixture of Dasya-rasa. So that is his Thai bhav. Okay, so there's a mixture of these two. But when he is in the battlefield, he also has this Veera Rasa with Krishna. He experienced that Veera Rasa with Krishna. Arjuna was not willing to fight with Bhishma. And that is evident at the start of Bhagavad Gita itself that he did not want to fight. But then Krishna spoke to him, he made him understand the philosophy, and Arjuna was ready to fight to perform his prescribed duty. But still, the affection for Bhishma was there. And if you see in Mahabharata, Arjuna was always more affectionate towards Bhishma. All the Pandavas were, but Arjuna, he had that Vatsalya Rasa, we can say, with Bhishma the most. So he was kind of withdrawing his arrows, or he was not shooting with his full power. And Bhishma seeing this, so Krishna was not happy with that. Okay, so Krishna started chastising Arjuna, saying, what are you doing? If you do not fight like this, then I will go and fight. I will kill. So seeing this, Bhishma, he started shooting arrows towards Krishna. So there was this rasa, exchange of rasa between Krishna and Bhishma. And when the arrows of Bhishma entered Krishna's body, then he manifested blood out of his body. And he experienced, or rather he showed the symptoms as if he's in pain. And then he also induced Arjuna to get up and fight. And Arjuna, then he became very angry, and then he started shooting arrows towards Bhishma. And it is also said that actually in the fight, Bhishma is, or Bhishma's position as a devotee, actually Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this in Srimad-Bhagavatam, that Bhishma's position as a devotee, as his exchange of rasa with Krishna is much, much more than what Arjuna is having with Krishna. Because Krishna is sitting in front of him, and Arjuna is only able to see Krishna's back. But Bhishma, he is able to see the Lord as well as his pure devotee in the front. And then he was exchanging this Veera Rasa with him. He was shooting arrows at Arjuna, he was also shooting arrows at Krishna, making Krishna angry as well as Arjuna angry. And then this exchange, this transcendental exchange of rasa is there. So Bhishma is, in terms of exchange of this taste, or this relationship, Bhishma is much, much more exalted, especially in the battlefield, than when it comes to Krishna and Arjuna. Like this. So that experience was there, that rasa was there. But there was no inimical attitude. So Bhishma did not have an inimical attitude towards Krishna. It was that rasa was exchanged, not so that Krishna should be killed or Krishna should be hurt like that. But it's a rasa. Both are enjoying. Krishna is also enjoying and Bhishma is also enjoying. It's like that. So this is loving service. Bhishma's loving service towards Krishna. Normally, when someone is in a dasya mubhav, then we do not want to hurt our master. No, we are obedient to him. But then this is his temporary rasa, the secondary rasa. It's manifested and it makes that dasya bhav also very relishable. Like this. So many things are there. So that taste is there between the Lord and his devotee. And Krishna can exchange like that. So therefore is called as Akhila Rasamrita. Ghastly or wondrous rasa or chivalrous rasas, although they are not exactly like the 5 primary rasas, conjugal love, paternal affection, friendly love, just like Bhishma. Bhishma Dev was enjoying the chivalry rasa when he decided that this day I must kill Arjuna. Either Krishna will have to break his promise. Right? Krishna decided not to fight in the battlefield, but then Bhishma decided I'll make him take up weapons and charge towards me. So that's the rasa that's being exchanged. Akhila Rasamrita Sindhu, Raso Vaisaha, in the Vedas, he is the reservoir of all pleasure, transcendental. When we exchange rasa, transcendental mellow, then we get transcendental bliss. As the materialist has centered around sex, this way or that way, similarly the transcendentalists, their center is Krishna. That is the difference. We want to enjoy life, making Krishna as the center, that is eternal happiness. Rasa is there. Here, perverted reflection. The perverted reflection, my Guru Maharaj used to say, to taste milk in white, what is called lime water, right? We discussed this yesterday. White lime water, it looks like milk, but it is not milk. It's a different thing. Similarly, we are trying to taste the rasa of milk in lime water. Therefore, we are baffled. Okay, so this is the conversation which happened on August 20th, 1971 between Pradyumna Prabhu is reading the purport of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 3, and Srila Prabhupada is commenting in between. So we will not read this now, but I would suggest that you can go home and then after this class is complete, you can please read this purport. It's very amazing to understand the science of rasa. So right at the start itself, we quoted this verse, no? Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam, shukamukadamrita dharva samvidam, pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam, muhurao rasika bhuvi bhavuka. Srimad-Bhagavatam is meant for relishing this rasa between the Lord and his devotees, and we are supposed or we are invited to partake in that relationship. So this purport of Srila Prabhupada is very good or very nice to understand the concepts and the topics that we are discussing. You can please read that after this is done. Okay, and finally, we discussed, if you remember, that the topics that we are discussing in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, they are taken from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the science of devotional service is explained via the conversations between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and different devotees, specifically Ramananda Rai, Swarup Damodar, Sri Rupa Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami. So specifically these 4 devotees had lots of, not say lots of interaction, but in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami spends a significant amount of time in explaining or in explaining all these different conversations which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had with him. And in these conversations, the specific topics of devotional service are being discussed. Okay, and these topics are what is being elaborated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. So this is just one section where this 12 verses where Ramananda Rai is speaking to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Ramananda Rai is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his South Indian tour, at that time, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he told, so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya at this time has taken to pure devotional service. So he was not the impersonalist who he was before. After speaking with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has taken a pure devotional service, and he has, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was exhibiting ecstatic symptoms also. So he suggested to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that when you go to South, then there's a devotee, Ramananda Rai. So therefore you should go and meet him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to that place where Ramananda Rai was the governor at that time for the king who was in Orissa. So Ramananda Rai came on the banks of Godavari to take bath, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also there. And then they embraced. They met each other and then they embraced. And after that, they used to discuss about Krishna conscious topics every night. So every night, Ramananda Rai, after all his day duties are complete, he will come to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then they will have discussion about Krishna throughout the whole night. And it continued like this for some time. I think it's 3 days or 4 days. So at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to speak to Ramananda Rai, or rather, he wanted to ask Ramananda Rai about the topics of Krishna and Radharani. So those, what Ramananda Rai explained to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are these verses. Okay. So we'll read. This is Madhya Leela, chapter 8, text 137. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. So this is Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. In the spiritual realm of Vrindavan, Krishna is a spiritual, ever fresh Cupid. He is worshipped by the chanting of the Kama Gayatri Mantra with the spiritual seed, Kleem. The very name Krishna means that he attracts even Cupid. He is therefore attractive to everyone, male and female, moving and inert living entities. Indeed, Krishna is known as the all-attractive one. And we see Srila Prabhupada's purport started with this, as Krishna being the all-attractive, when we discussed the text yesterday. When Krishna left the Rasa Leela dance, the gopis became very morose. And when they were grieving, Krishna reappeared dressed in yellow garments, wearing a flower garland and smiling. He was attractive even to Cupid. In this way, Krishna appeared among the gopis. So whenever in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'll see whenever a statement is being made, then there's a specific reference also quoted to substantiate that statement. So how Krishna is all attractive? Because the gopis, they were attracted to him, and Krishna's form was like this. Each and every devotee has a certain type of transcendental mellow in relation to Krishna. But in all transcendental relationships, the devotee is the worshipper, Ashray, and Krishna is the object of worship, Vishay. Okay, so this concept of Ashray and Vishay is explored or expanded more in the other 3 divisions, southern, western, and northern divisions. So we will not be doing that. And actually, Srila Prabhupada writes about this in his purports to Chaitanya Charitamrita. There also we can get these details. So the devotee is always the Ashray, and Krishna is the Vishay. He is the subject matter. And this is the verse, no? Akhila Rasamrita Murtihi. Let Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, be glorified. By virtue of his expanding attractive features, he subjugated the gopis named Taraka and Pali and absorbed the minds of Shama and Lalita. He is the most attractive lover of Srimati Radharani and is the reservoir of pleasure for devotees in all transcendental mellows. He is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. Krishna is all attractive for devotees in all mellows because he is the personification of the conjugal mellow. Krishna is attractive not only to all the devotees but to himself as well. Okay. So this is also the reason, Ramananda Rai is saying that he's all attracted to devotees because he is the personification of the conjugal mellow. So one thing that we should understand is when we have these 5 rasas, Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya and Madhurya. So the rasas, they progress. They progress in, it's like this, no? Shanta rasa has some characteristics. Okay. And Dasya Rasa has Shanta Rasa also included within that. And Sakhya Rasa has Shanta Rasa and Dasya Rasa included within Sakhya Rasa. Vatsalya Rasa has Shanta, Dasya and Sakhya. And Madhurya Rasa has all the lower 5. And can be understood with very simple example. So just like, in mundane realm, we have this experience of husband and wife. So the wife relates to husband in Dasya Rasa also, where she's serving him. Okay, and Sakhya Rasa also, where she acts as his friend in consultation of so many other things. And Vatsalya Rasa also, when the husband is sick or he's not able to take care of himself, then that Vatsalya Rasa is also manifest. But what is the primary Sthai Bhav in the mundane sense of the term? It's Madhurya Rasa, because the relationship is that of husband and wife. But within that Madhurya Rasa, then there is 4 things are also manifest. And similarly, within Vatsalya Rasa also, all the below 3 are available. So it's like this. So Krishna is transcendental. Krishna is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. And he is the personification of the conjugal mellow. So that is what is being mentioned. And this is why in Bhakti Rasamrita, in the first verse is speaking about Akhila Rasamrita Murti, Prasamra, Ruddha, Ruchira, Taraka, Pali, then Shama, Lalito, then Radha, Prayan. So it's talking about the gopis, because what's the relationship of Krishna with the gopis? It's conjugal mellow, it's Madhurya Rasa. So it's understood that all the other rasas are also included within conjugal rasa. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu will take us to that topmost level. So this is what we understand from all this. And another point is Krishna is attracted not only to all the devotees, but to himself as well. So Krishna is attracted to himself. So this is, my dear friends, just see how Shri Krishna is enjoying the season of spring. This is a reference which Sri Ramananda Rai quotes. With the gopis embracing each of his limbs, he is like amorous love personified. With his transcendental pastimes, he enlivens all the gopis and the entire creation. With his soft bluish black arms and legs, which resemble blue lotus flowers, he has created a festival for Cupid. Therefore, it is all attractive. He also attracts Narayana, who is the incarnation of Shankarshana and husband of the goddess of fortune. He attracts not only Narayana, but also all women headed by the goddess of fortune, the consort of Narayana. We saw this instance yesterday where Mahavishnu, he wanted to see Krishna. And also, if we see in some of the Sri Vaishnava temples, where the Lord is there as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, so Krishna's paintings are there within the Garbhagriha. In some of the Sri Vaishnava temples, Krishna's paintings will be there. So when the Lord is taking rest, then he's always looking at the pastimes of Krishna. So in Garbhagriha, Krishna's paintings are painted for the pleasure of the Lord. This is also a significant factor. And if you go to Srirangam, you'll see Krishna's paintings or forms carved all over the temple. It's there because Krishna is so attractive that even he attracts Lord Vishnu. Addressing Krishna and Arjuna, Lord Mahavishnu, the Mahapurusha, said, I wanted to see both of you, and therefore I have brought the sons of the Brahmana here. Both of you have appeared in the material world to re-establish religious principles, and you have both appeared here with all your potencies. After killing all the demons, please quickly return to the spiritual world. O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya attained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of their lotus feet. So this is the wives of Kaliya who are speaking, Nagapatnis. For this end, the goddess of fortune performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how the serpent Kaliya got such an opportunity. Lord Krishna's sweetness is so attractive that it steals away his own mind. Thus, even he wants to embrace himself. Upon seeing his own reflection in a bejeweled pillar of his Dwarka palace, Krishna desired to embrace it, saying, Alas, I have never seen such a person before. Who is he? Just by seeing him, I have become eager to embrace him. Exactly like Srimati Radharani. So this is ever increasing. We discussed yesterday, Krishna's beauty is ever increasing. So if Krishna saw him yesterday, then he was attracted to that form. But then there's an idea how he looks. The next day he sees himself, he's even more beautiful. So again he's attracted to himself. So like that, the bliss keeps on increasing. Okay, so this is what we discussed in synopsis, and Srila Prabhupada writes all this in his books. So we'll continue with Jiva Goswami's commentary on this verse. So he says that obsessed by the desire to benefit all the devotees of the Lord, the esteemed author Sri Rupa compiled this remarkable work. This is the first verse. So Jiva Goswami is giving an introduction to this Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Sri Rupa compiled this remarkable work, the scripture called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, using the rasas presented in Srimad-Bhagavatam. So everything is there in Srimad-Bhagavatam, and we saw a glimpse of it in just one verse from yesterday, when Krishna entered the arena of Kamsa. All the different rasas were exchanged by different devotees. And if you see, these devotees were all present in one arena. And throughout Srimad-Bhagavatam, all these types of devotees or all these types of people are mentioned at different places throughout the 12 cantos. So if we want, we can do that study, personal study, of course, that different rasas, how different devotees relate to different rasas. And this study is made available to us by Srila Jiva Goswami in his Priti Sandarbha. In Priti Sandarbha, all these different relationships throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, all the 12 rasas are explained with respect to the devotees. Discerning what will be described is the most exalted among topics, he adds the introductory Mangala verse to indicate this, and thus announce that the whole of this work is auspicious incarnate, because the subject matter is Krishna. So first, he speaks about Vidhu. You see in the text, the last two lines is Vidhur Jayati. So Vidhu, he says, refers to Krishna. And there are reasons why Vidhu refers to Krishna. So, in generally, Vidhu refers to Krishna because it means he who is marked with Srivatsa symbol. So one who has his white tuft of hair in his chest in his bosom. That is called a Srivatsa, where the Lakshmi Devi resides. So because Lakshmi Devi resides only in the bosom of Krishna, therefore Vidhur means Krishna, it refers to Krishna. It's the general form of the Lord. Vidhu also stands for Vidhunoti, which means that he defeats, which can be further explained as he is the one who transcends all sufferings and destroys everyone's suffering. So therefore he is Vidhunoti. See, right? Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam. Shanvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridayantastho Bhadrani, Vidhunoti Suhrit Satam. He cleanses or he removes or he destroys the suffering of his devotees who are ready to hear his transcendental message. Shanvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. Who engages in Shravana and Kirtana, Krishna removes their suffering. And this we will see in the first chapter of Nectar of Devotion, which is one of the characteristics of pure devotional service. Relief from suffering. Kleshagni. Okay, so this is directly in relation to what the characteristic of pure devotional service is. So Krishna, Vidhunoti, one meaning is that he transcends all suffering. Or the person who surpasses all others. Okay, so that also means Vidhunoti. Vidhu can also stand for Vidadhati, which means he produces. This indicates the person who produces all happiness or the person who causes everything. Okay, Vidadhati Kaman, he fulfills all the desires of all living entities. Nityo Nityanam Chetana Chetananam Eko Bahonamyo Vidadhati Kaman. Vidadhati means he produces everything for the living entities. He sustains, he maintains all living entities and he causes everything. That is how the living entities are able to sustain themselves. So in this way, meaning of Vidhu can be derived, he's saying. And Srila Jiva Goswami, for explaining each of these characteristics of Krishna, he will quote a verse from Srimad-Bhagavatam in this commentary. So we will see that. So one must conclude that Vidhu means he alone is famous for his ability to liberate even the demons and thus destroys their suffering also. He is famous for his ability to surpass others by his own powers. He is famous for bestowing happiness up to the greatest happiness found in the most astounding prema, and is famous as Swayam Bhagwan, the original cause of everything. So this is what Vidhu means. And if you see, this is the subject matter of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And throughout Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, even the section, the eastern section that we are going to see, Sri Rupa Goswami himself gives different references from different scriptures, enhancing these qualities of Krishna. So we will see that. Okay. So proofs from Srimad-Bhagavatam, destroying all suffering. So this is that verse. The translation goes, at the moment of death, this is Bhishma Dev speaking to Krishna. At the moment of death, let my ultimate attraction be to Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. I concentrate my mind upon Arjuna's chariot driver, who stood with a whip in his right hand and a bridle rope in his left, and who was very careful to give protection to Arjuna's chariot by all means. So this is what he saw on the battlefield of Krishna, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, both Krishna as well as Arjuna. Those who saw him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original forms after death. So just read the purport because it is in relation to the question that Prabhu asked yesterday of what happened to those who left their body in the battlefield. Okay. So I'll just skip these things. You can go and read this purport. I'll just come to that part where Srila Prabhupada speaks about this. Okay, a spiritual form like the Lord's, either 200 or 400, is attained by the devotees of the Lord, either in the Vaikunthas or in the Golok planet, according to the original nature of the soul. This form, which is cent% spiritual, is the Swarupa of the living being. And all the living beings who participated on the battlefield of Kurukshetra on both sides attained their Swarupa as confirmed by Bhishma Dev. So they attained their Swarupa. So Lord Krishna was not merciful only to the Pandavas, he was merciful to the other parties because all of them attained the same result. Bhishma Dev wanted the same facility also, and that was his prayer to the Lord. Although his position as an associate of the Lord is assured in all circumstances. The conclusion is that, this is important, whoever dies looking on the personality of Godhead within or without attains his Swarupa, which is the highest perfection of life. And, okay, to qualify this statement further, Srila Prabhupada in his purport to Canto 2, Chapter 7, text 34 and 35, writes, all persons who participate in the battlefield of Kurukshetra or otherwise with the Lord or with Baladeva, etc., would benefit by attaining spiritual existence according to the situation of their minds at the time of death. Those who recognize the Lord would enter Vaikuntha, and those who estimated the Lord only a powerful being would attain salvation by merging into the spiritual existence of the impersonal Brahmajyoti of the Lord. So what we can understand is that those who gave up their life on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, looking at Krishna and understanding that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is so attractive. Like this, when they looked at him from without from outside, in his transcendental form, through their own eyes, then they attained their Swarupa. And those who left their body only thinking that he is a great personality and he is not transcendental, they attained only Brahmajyoti, although they were looking at the face of the Lord. So they attained only Brahmajyoti. So the attitude of that person is important. One may not even have a devotional attitude, just the appreciation that the Lord is transcendental. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is beyond the three modes. He is Vaikuntapati. Even that understanding and just looking at the face of the Lord itself is enough for a person. That appreciation itself is enough for a person to attain to his Swarupa. And the example is this of those who left their body in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Okay, but every one of them would get released from material existence because they're going to the spiritual realm. Since such is the benefit of those who played with the Lord inimically, one can imagine what would be the position of those who devoutly served the Lord in a transcendental relationship with Him. Right? So this is the reference for destroying all suffering. So Krishna destroys the suffering of his devotees, obviously, but also he relieves the demons from the material pangs by absorbing them in his impersonal effulgence. Right. So he surpasses all others. Lord Shri Krishna is the Lord of all kinds of threes and is independently supreme by achievement of all kinds of fortune. He is worshipped by the eternal maintainers of the creation, who offer him the paraphernalia of worship by touching their millions of helmets to his feet. So Krishna is so mild and merciful, as described in the above verses, and yet he is the Lord of all kinds of threes. The three qualities of material nature, the three worlds, and the three Purusha avatars. He is the controller of all three. There are innumerable universes, and in each and every universe there are different manifestations of Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra, and he is the controller of them as well. So this is the greatest or surpassing all others. So nobody is superior to him and nobody is equal to him. That's why Krishna is called as Asamurdhva. Sama Urdhva. Nobody is equal to him, nobody is Sama to him, and nobody is above him. Urdhva also. Asamurdhva. So he surpasses all other in his transcendental qualities in all the six opulences also. We discussed this yesterday. The six opulences are present in the Vishnu forms as well. But then Krishna, he surpasses the Vishnu forms also by his manifestation of all the potencies in full. Therefore, he is called as Bhagavan. Bestowing the greatest happiness. He bestows the greatest happiness by manifesting his transcendental form. How does that form look? Krishna's face is decorated with ornaments such as earring resembling sharks. Right? Makara Kundala. Yasyananam. Ananam means face. His face is decorated with Makara Kundala and Charu Karna. Very beautiful earrings. Brajat Kapola Subhagam Savilasa Hasam. And his cheeks are brilliant. And Savilasa Hasam. His laugh or his smile is so enchanting. Nityotsavam means his form itself is just like a festival. You see, in a festival, everybody is so jubilant, enthusiastic, and happy. Just by looking at Krishna's form, one becomes happy. His face or his form itself is like Nitya Utsavam. It's always like an eternal festival. Na Tritupur Drishbhi Pibantyo. Naryo Narascha Muditaha Kupita Nimeshcha. So whoever sees Krishna sees a festival. His face and body are fully satisfying for everyone to see. But the devotees are angry at the Creator for the disturbance caused by the momentary blinking of their eyes. So his form being just like a festival, the devotees are not very happy that Brahma created these eyelids. No, Gopis complained that Brahma does not have that much of intelligence. Although his intelligence personified, but he does not have that much intelligence. Then further, dear Krishna, what woman in all three worlds wouldn't deviate from religious behavior and bewildered by the sweet drawn out melody of your flute? Your beauty makes all the three worlds auspicious. Indeed, even the cows, birds, trees, and deer manifest the ecstatic symptom of bodily hair standing on end when they see your beautiful form. Right? So this is bestowing the greatest happiness. And if you see, all these points were discussed in Srila Prabhupada's purport yesterday. Right. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yogamaya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. These pastimes are wonderful for everyone, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. So he also experienced Adbhuta Rasa with Krishna, because he also has this experience of Rasa with the Lord, because he's also attracted to him. These pastimes are wonderful for everyone to see, including the Lord himself. The Lord himself was enchanted or attracted to Krishna's pastimes. So there's a rasa in that also. So the Lord of Vaikuntha also enjoys rasa with Krishna. Thus Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. And he is the source of all others. Ete chamsha kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. All the incarnations of the Lord, they are superior to everything else, to all the living entities and the energies of the Lord. But among the incarnations of the Lord, Krishna is the supreme. And he eternally exists with all excellences. Lord Shri Krishna lives eternally with all excellences among the cowherd men and the Yadavas. He is conclusively both the son of Devaki and Yashoda. He is the guide of the Yadu dynasty and the cowherd men. And with his mighty arms, he kills everything inauspicious in Vraja, Mathura and Dwaraka. By his presence, he destroyed all things inauspicious for all living entities moving and inert, and the suffering of separation of the inhabitants of Vraja and Dwaraka. His blissful smiling face always increases the desires of the gopis of Vrindavan and women of Mathura and Dwaraka. He remains eternally in this situation. So therefore it's Nityotsavam. So Krishna never diminishes. There is no depletion. There is no inability. There is nothing, no limited in Krishna. It's always increasing. So therefore he is called as Akhila Rasamrita Murtihi, and he contains all 12 rasas. Right? So we discussed all this. And these are Srila Jiva Goswami's quotes from Srimad-Bhagavatam about experiencing of these different rasas. And this is the verse which he quotes, and this is the verse which we discussed yesterday in Srila Prabhupada's purport, Ballanam Ashanir Pranam. And there he gives all the different rasas which people experienced with Krishna when he entered. So therefore, Krishna is the Lord beyond the material modes. One should meditate upon him, relish him, serve him and worship him. So this is the conclusion. Gopal Tapani Upanishad. And Prasrabhara Ruchiruddha Taraka Palihi. So Sri Jiva Goswami, he gives finer details to these things. That this Mangalavas depicts Krishna's relationship with the gopis. And then he gives references from Srimad-Bhagavatam again. And just like Srila Prabhupada gave the list of gopis, Sri Jiva Goswami also, or rather we should say, as Jiva Goswami has given in his commentary, Srila Prabhupada, he followed the same. And he gives the list of the gopis. And specifically, he points out that specifically he points out, right. He points out that the two chief gopis of medium status are then described. Krishna accepts, I should read here. In the Dwaraka Mahatmya, in the Prahlad Samhita of the Skanda Purana, starting with the words Lalito Vacha, a different list of the 8 chief gopis is given. And this is the list of the gopis. And then he says the 2 chief gopis of medium status are then described. So first, Taraka and Pali. Taraka and Pali are listed in the Bhavishya Purana. Correct? Yes, Taraka and Palika. They are mentioned in. So they are, Palika is friendly with Chandravali, who is transcendentally a competitor of Srimati Radharani in the spiritual world. Whereas Taraka is Radha's Sakhi, but she's somewhat distant. And then the next set is described. The 2 chief gopis of medium status are described. Krishna accepts Shyamala and Lalita, making them his very self. Then the supreme among the chief gopis is mentioned. Krishna gives most pleasure to Radha. Prayan, the comparative form of Priya, means he who endeavors to please to the utmost. In consideration of Radha's most extraordinary nature, she is not described in a similar way as the 2 other pairs of gopi. In the first 2 pairs of gopi, Krishna is the agent of enjoying. He is the bhokta. We discussed this yesterday. But in the case of Radha, he gives pleasure to her. Therefore, she must be considered to be the chief gopi. This fact is mentioned in the Padma Purana Kartik Mahatmya in describing Radha Kund. Right? And Srila Prabhupada also spoke about Radha Kund in his purport. So he directly follows what Srila Jiva Goswami gives here. Right. So then he gives further quotes explaining how Srimati Radharani is supreme. And he finishes his commentary there. Okay. So this is our discussion on first verse, on the Mangalacharan Vastu Nirdesh. So this is our, this is the subject matter of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure and topmost pleasure is experienced by Srimati Radharani. And therefore, we as aspiring devotees should also expect mercy from Srimati Radharani. So that is mentioned, that will come in the later verses, in the later part of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay, so moving forward, we are short of time. So this is the second and third paragraph. We read this last time also, just read it again. Let His Lordship's grace be on us so that there may not be any hindrance in the execution of this duty of writing the Nectar of Devotion, impelled by His divine grace, Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. If you see this verse, Rupa Goswami is actually praying to Sanatana Goswami, and then he is praying to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. So Srila Prabhupada's prayer is to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, to Srila Rupa Goswami, and to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and then he prays to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, this is the sublime science of devotional service as propounded by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, India, to propagate the movement of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so we'll continue. Sri Rupa Goswami begins his great book by offering his respectful obeisances unto Sri Sanatana Goswami, who is his elder brother and spiritual master. And he prays that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu may be very pleasing to him. He further prays that by reciting that ocean of nectar, Sri Sanatana Goswami may always feel transcendental pleasure in the service of Radha and Krishna. Okay. So actually, Sri Jiva Goswami, he explains, he gives a very nice explanation to all these verses, but in this study, we will not be able to do that. We'll be concentrating on only specific topics. We have already discussed the subject matter in elaborate detail, Akhila Rasamrita Murti, and we will be concentrating more on the actual definition of pure devotional service, which we are planning to start now. But whatever Srila Prabhupada is given is enough. Like Rupa Goswami, he is offering his obeisances to Sanatana Goswami. So this belongs to Guru Vandana, which is the second and third verse. Vaishnava Vandana is the fourth verse, and Ashirvad is fifth and sixth. So we will see. Right. So this is the fourth verse. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the great devotees. So this is Vaishnava Vandana. Right? And Acharyas, who are compared to sharks in the great ocean of nectar and who do not care for the various rivers of liberation. Impersonalists are very fond of merging into the Supreme, like rivers that come down and merge into the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation and the rivers to all the different paths of liberation. So a comparison is being made. Right? Great devotees and Acharyas are just like sharks. Okay, the most powerful fish in the ocean. And this ocean of nectar, Samrita Sindhu, is the ocean of devotional service. And they do not care for these various rivers which are compared to liberation. So just like all the rivers, they finally merge or they finally get into ocean, but that ocean is Bhakti Rasa. So even the impersonal liberation is incomplete. The rivers are also incomplete. They finally have to merge into this ocean itself. And great devotees, normally the comparison is given, Mayavadis give this comparison, that we are just like rivers. And finally, we, just like a river merges into the ocean, and then we lose our individuality. You cannot differentiate between the river and the ocean. When it is merged, similarly the living entities will merge into ocean. And then we lose our individuality. We'll go to Brahman. We'll become Aikya with Brahman, one with Brahman, like this. But this is the proper understanding, or rather, that is the improper understanding. But what Srila Rupa Goswami gives here is proper understanding. He says, the great devotees are just like sharks. And just like the sharks, they do not care. They do not come into rivers. There is no instance of a shark being in a river. Small fishes might be there, but sharks are not in river. And therefore, the devotees are just like sharks. They're just like Makara, who are in ocean. And which ocean are they in? They are in the deepest form of the ocean. They are not in the shallow. They don't come up. They go to the deepest regions of the ocean and they're always enjoying there. So devotees are like this. In this ocean of Bhakti Rasa, they go very deep and then they enjoy themselves like this. They do not care about the rivers which merge into this ocean, and they also do not care about the small, small fishes who are there. So therefore, they do not care anything about liberation. And this particular point is very prominent in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in Nectar of Devotion specifically, that impersonal liberation is actually totally destroyed, demolished and killed by Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very famously said, Mayavada Bhashya Sunle Hoy Sarvanash. If you hear Mayavad Bhashya, then you are completely doomed. And it's the biggest enemy of pure devotional service. So therefore, when pure devotional service is being elaborated in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there are verses after verses after verses after verses quoted from different scriptures throughout the Vedic corpus. Srila Rupa Goswami spends lots of time in establishing that impersonal liberation, it is actually totally useless. It is on par with what mundane experience we have, and it does not give any auspiciousness to any living entity. It does not bestow anything auspicious. So therefore, liberation is destroyed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And the devotees, they actually do not care about this various rivers of liberation. Impersonalists are fond of merging, and like rivers that come and merge into the ocean. The ocean can be compared to liberation, and the rivers to all different paths of liberation. So ultimate liberation is to be situated in one's eternal constitutional position. Mukti hitva netharupa swarupena vyavastitihi. Mukti, the actual meaning of mukti is to be situated in one's own swarupa, which is to render service to the Lord, to be to render devotional service to the Lord. That is actual swarupa of the Lord. So that is proper liberation. So this bhakti rasa is the actual platform of liberation. Okay, it's the actual platform of mukti. But the Mayavadis or the impersonalists, they do not understand this point. The sharks who dwell in the ocean do not care for the rivers which are gliding down into it. The devotees eternally live in the ocean of devotional service, and they do not care for the rivers. In other words, those who are pure devotees always remain in the ocean of transcendental loving service to the Lord and have no business with other processes which are compared to rivers that only gradually come to the ocean. Right? It's Krishna says, no, Bahunam Janmanamati Jnanavan Ma Prapadyate. So one who is a Jnani, of course, the meaning is can be derived in different ways. Of the Jnani who is into this impersonal meditation, after many, many births, he can come to devotional service. Or even this is, Kleshodikatara Apekta Satyatejatam, Avekta Haigatiputukam, Dehavate Bhapate. This impersonal meditation is very, very difficult. And one, after a long practice of impersonal liberation, finally he may come to devotional service, but then it is not guaranteed. He commits any offense in his path of jnana, then he falls down. So there is no question of coming to devotional service that way. So we do not hear of many jnanis like this. Probably the four Kumaras are there, Shukdev Goswami is there, and in some scriptures, Bilvamangal Thakur is also mentioned like that. That he was also a jnani and finally he took up devotional service by the mercy of pure devotees. Like this. So it's very difficult, it's very rare for jnanis to take up devotional service because they are stuck and they end up committing offenses. So they may come gradually to this ocean of devotional service, but it's very rare. Okay. One thing which is mentioned in this verse is that Paribhuta Kala Jala Bhiyaha. So the sharks in the ocean, they do not worry about the net which a fisherman puts in the river or in the ocean to catch fishes. There is no instance of someone catching a shark. You cannot shark a shark. The makara cannot be captured like this. So therefore, the devotees, they are not captured by this Kala Jala, means the net of time. So devotees are not within the purview of Kala. They are beyond Kala. And Srimad-Bhagavatam specifically explains that Ayur Harati Tahai Pumsam, of a normal condition living entity, the age is by this rising of sun and setting of sun, the time or the amount of time that a person is supposed to live, it is all harati, it's all captured by this rising and setting of the sun. But for a devotee, no, that does not happen. Because his activities are transcendental, his activities are not within the purview of time, they are not within the purview of Kala. All his activities, what does a devotee do? He renders devotional service. And he renders devotional service throughout his whole life continuously. Correct? So all his activities are transcendental, and because his activities are transcendental, there is no influence of time. Whatever he's doing in this life, which is apparently manifest in front of our eyes, whatever he does in this life, these are eternal transcendental activities which are meant for giving pleasure to the Lord. And after he leaves his body, so-called leaving of this body, he continues with the same set of activities. So therefore, a devotee's activities or a devotee himself is not under the purview of time. He cannot be captured by this net of time. So that is Kala Jala Piyaha. And Srila Jiva Goswami specifically comments that here. Okay. Next, Sri Rupa Goswami prays to his spiritual master, Sri Sanatana Goswami, for the protection of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this is a benediction which Sri Rupa Goswami is expecting from his spiritual master. That Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu should be protected from whom? From the argumentative logicians who unnecessarily meddle in the science of service to the Lord. He compares their arguments and logic to volcanic eruptions in the midst of the ocean. In the midst of the ocean, volcanic eruptions can do very little harm. And similarly, those who are against devotional service to the Lord and who put forward many philosophical theses about the ultimate transcendental realization cannot disturb this great ocean of devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada gives his comment. He says that these argumentative logicians or the impersonalists, they put forward many kinds of arguments and they try to explain the scriptures. Oh, I'm sorry, okay. They try to explain the scriptures in their own way. Right? Even Srimad-Bhagavatam also, there are impersonalistic commentaries on Srimad-Bhagavatam from the followers of Shankara who follows Advaita. They also comment on Srimad-Bhagavatam. And they actually present Srimad-Bhagavatam in an impersonalistic light. But Srimad-Bhagavatam is expounding the absolute truth about the personality of Godhead. But then they meddle with their argument, with their logic, with their shastric interpretations, manipulations. They do that. So Sri Rupa Goswami is asking for protection from these academic logicians, that they do not meddle at this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and try to somehow inject their impersonalistic ideas. And this is also one of the reasons why Rupa Goswami writes so much about impersonalism, that a Mayavadi cannot touch this book. He cannot touch this book and somehow squeeze out some idea about impersonalistic liberation. You see, even in the terms of devotional service, there are so many devotees, we will not say call them devotees, but there are so many people who take up to this process of bhakti, but their idea is completely impersonal. Their idea is completely Mayavadik. Okay, and it's existing even now. There are so many people, Mayavadis, they chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra very nicely, with expert kirtan, expert mridanga playing and other things. And they're so sweet to hear. But then it's totally Mayavad. And in South India also, we have this, what is that group? Okay, I forgot the name of the group. It is they chant this mantra, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, like this. So that group, his name is Murlidhar Swamigal is what he's called in Tamil Nadu. So he actually claims to be a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu propagated, I think it's Namadwar, his organization called as Namadwar, he says. So name, holy name is topmost, he says. He says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he expounded this, that's for Kali Yuga, Hare Rama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Gatiranyatha, all that he quotes. And then he says Kali Yuga, in Kali Yuga, this Harinam is the best. So therefore we should chant this mantra. And you will see, there are so many recordings, videos. He actually encourages his followers to chant this Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, like this. And then he sings also. So many things is there. But what is his philosophy? He's actually a follower of Chandrasekharendra Saraswati from Kanchimat. Okay, he says, my philosophy is Advaita. He claims, my philosophy is Advaita, and finally, this is what I follow, and I have lots of appreciation for Chandrasekharendra Saraswati and those who have come with this Shankara Mat like this. So what is this? His whole idea or his whole understanding itself is completely impersonalistic. But then he's into this chanting of Mahamantra. So this is like impersonalistic people trying to inject their own idea of so-called devotional service. So how can we categorize? Just a sahajiya, we can say, sentimentally attached to the holy name, but does not have any philosophical understanding. Will his chanting lead him to the highest goal, to bhava and prema? No. It will not lead because it's a deviation. It's diverted from the principles of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's not authorized. It's not authentic. It's not supported by the Goswamis. It's not supported by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is completely against this impersonalistic idea. But he has no clue about what is this. Just because I don't know what his idea regarding taking up of this holy name. Maybe he's an opportunist because ISKCON is growing, therefore he is also getting to that. I do not know. But the point is that this kind of chanting or this kind of encouragement of so-called devotional service is actually not helpful. These are just like volcanic eruptions in the midst of the ocean, right? And they do very little harm. Similarly, those who are against devotional service to the Lord and who put forward many philosophical theses about the ultimate transcendental realization cannot disturb the great ocean of devotional service. Somehow trying to squeeze or somehow trying to mix Advaita concept with Bhakti concepts will not work. Okay, it does not work. It is totally incomplete. It's like disturbance to devotional service. The author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Sri Rupa Goswami, very humbly submits that he is just trying to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, although he humbly thinks himself unfit for this work. Right? Bhakti Rasasya Prastutir Akhila Jagan Mangala Prasangasya Ajnapi. Although I am totally ignorant in all this humility, he says, Mayasya Kriyate Sukhrudam Pramodaya. To give joy to all my friends, to bring auspiciousness to the whole world, although I am ignorant, I am presenting this Bhakti Rasa for their purpose, even though I am the lowest. And how am I able to do it? By the mercy of my spiritual master, by the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, and by mercy of the Supreme Lord. So this is a very important point that Srila Prabhupada writes here, that should be the attitude of all preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. We should never think of ourselves as great preachers, but should always consider that we are simply instrumental to the previous acharyas. Simply by following in their footsteps, we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. So this is the attitude. What is the attitude? Never think of ourselves as great preachers. We should always consider that we are simply instrument to the previous acharyas and we should follow in their footsteps so that we may be able to do something for the benefit of suffering humanity. So this should be attitude of us when we are doing, not that, okay, we have distributed so many books today, so therefore, I am somewhere, I am on the top. No, the top book distributor is also very proud. No, it should not be the case. Because those who are preaching and those who are book distributors, they know that without cultivating or without maintaining that humble attitude, it's not possible to preach. It's not possible to distribute books. So therefore, that attitude must be there. And what should be our motive? Our motive is only for benefiting the suffering humanity. Because that is a motive. It's very important. Agyenapi. So, Akhila Jagan Mangala Prasangasya. So just to benefit the whole world. Right? He's presenting the concepts of bhakti. Agyenapi, although I am totally ignorant, totally foolish. Right? Still, for the benefit, to give benefit or to, for the benefit of the whole world and for the joy of my friends who can relish this bhakti rasa actually. For them, I am doing this. So this should be our mode, this should be our attitude. Very important to understand. So this is also a benediction in the sense that by understanding or by studying Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it will bestow benefit to all of suffering humanity. So that is the benediction, that is the Ashirvad. So one Ashirvad is expectation from his spiritual master for protecting the signs of pure devotional service. And then Rupa Goswami in this verse gives a benediction that by this studying of this work, it will bring auspiciousness to the whole world and it will also benefit all the suffering humanity. Okay, that is Ashirvad. Then from 7 to 9 is the division. We already saw the divisions to some extent, so we'll just read through it. Srila Prabhupada writes that Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into 4 parts and this ocean and so it's into east, south, west and north, and while subsections within these different divisions are called as waves. So there is this laharis, it's called, the waves are called as laharis. And we saw in the first part, there are 4 waves, the first being a general description of devotional service. The second concerns the regulative principles for executing devotional service. Third is devotional service in ecstasy. And fourth is the ultimate goal, love of God. So first wave is general description of devotional service, Samanya Bhakti. What is devotional service? And second concerns regulative principles, Sadhana Bhakti. Third wave, devotional service in ecstasy, Bhava Bhakti. And fourth is ultimate goal, love of God, which is Prema Bhakti. So this is a reference from Madhya Lila, chapter 1, text 41. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives an elaborate detail of this book. Okay, so you can read this. This is from Madhya Lila, chapter 1, text 41, purport. So here, these are the divisions. So there are waves. There are these four divisions, eastern, southern, western and north. And there are these waves. The eastern division is what we saw. Overview of Bhakti, Samanya Bhakti, then Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. So totally there are 437 verses. So this is what we are studying in our Bhakti Shastri. The 437 verses, the first 19 chapters of Nectar of Devotion. Then in southern division we have the concepts of rasa, how rasa is experienced. There is vibhava, which is causes of ecstasy. Then anubhava, which is subsequent ecstasy. Srila Prabhupada translates it like that. Anubhava is subsequent ecstasy. Satvika bhava is existential ecstasy. Vyabhichari bhava is aggressive ecstasy. And sthai bhava is constitutional ecstasy. Okay, so when we are reading Nectar of Devotion, because Srila Prabhupada is presenting all these topics to the Western world, correct? So he, by giving these words, he will not be able to explain the concepts properly so that a Western audience can understand. So what he did was to each and every Sanskrit word, he gave a subsequent English translation also. Okay, and that way the people can understand. And it has manifested as well. Right? So many devotees have been made who just read Nectar of Devotion. So it's not that we cannot understand what Srila Prabhupada is writing. Just by reading Nectar of Devotion, so many Western people, they became devotees. They had no association with devotees. They never came to temple. They have not read Bhagavad Gita as it is, Krishna book, or even the small books of Srila Prabhupada. They just read Nectar of Devotion and then they will take up devotional service very easily. So this understanding or the words which we are used are these words which are Srila Rupa Goswami uses. And then Srila Prabhupada gives the corresponding translation for them. While superficially reading, it might not make much sense, but understanding what each of this term actually mean, will be able to understand the subsequent chapters of Nectar of Devotion also properly. So the understanding is that once we discuss the first 19 chapters, all of us should not stop there, and then we should continue from 20th chapter to 51st chapter to understand the whole process of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. In Western Ocean, there are these 5 sthai bhava are mentioned. Shanta Bhakti Rasa, then Preeti Bhakti Rasa, which also is Dasya Bhakti, then Preyo Bhakti, which is Sakhya Bhakti, Vatsalya Bhakti and Madhurya Bhakti. So these are the 5 sthai bhavas. And then in the northern the northern division, the last, we have the 7 rasas, subordinate rasas. Hasya Bhakti Rasa, Adbhuta Bhakti, Veera Bhakti, Karuna Bhakti, Rautra Bhakti, Bhayanaka Bhakti and Vivatsa Bhakti Rasa. Then Maitri Vairasthiti. This is the 8th wave, which speaks about which of these rasas are compatible with each other. Okay, which can go with each other. So which are friendly. Maitri Vairasthiti. Maitri means some rasas of these 12 are friendly to each other. They are compatible. Whereas Vaira means they are against each other. They do not fall in the same category. They cannot come together. So that is Maitra Vairasthiti. And Rasabhas is that when the transcendental rasa is thought to be of mundane origin, or when such kind of rasa is experienced in the mundane realm. So there's an explanation about that also. And those rasas which actually does not create a sense of happiness or satisfaction, or that does not give taste, but actually it's a perversion of that taste. That is called as rasabhas. So that rasa which we are trying to experience within this material world, it is all rasabhas. It's just a shadow or semblance of rasa. And it is not feeling very tasteful also. So that's the point. Okay, so yeah, so from 20, this is the chapter division with respect to Bhakti Rasamrita and Nectar of Devotion. So first 19 chapters is the Eastern division, which we are going to discuss. Southern division is from chapter 20 to 34. Then Western division is from 35 to 44. And North division is from 45 to 51. Okay. So, the authorized descriptions of bhakti or devotional service following in the footsteps of previous acharyas can be summarized in the following statement by Srila Rupa Goswami. So, one thing that we should understand is in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami speaks only about pure devotional service. He does not speak about mixed devotional service. He does not speak about Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, or Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Raja Yoga, different types of Sakya Yoga. He does not speak about any of these things in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu speaks only about pure devotional service. And whatever characteristics are mentioned subsequently and whatever references are given, they all relate to pure devotional service. Even the 64 limbs which will be mentioned for Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, they also take one to pure devotional service only. So those who are engaged in devotional activities, they should engage in these limbs of devotional service for cultivating pure devotional service. These limbs do not belong to any mixed devotional service. That is why we will also not find anything related to Varnashrama here. Okay, no Varnashrama principles are explained. That, okay, by following one's prescribed duty, by giving the results of prescribed duties to Krishna, therefore one can advance in bhakti. So those kind of concepts are not elaborated upon in Bhakti Rasamrita. So no Varnashrama concepts are given. It's mentioned so that a comparison can be given of how pure devotional service is transcendental to anything which is material. So there will be a comparison will be given between pure devotional service and other forms of devotional service, but those other forms of devotional service are not explained further. So one is not supposed to cultivate Karma Mishra Bhakti or Jnana Mishra Bhakti. That is the point. One is supposed to cultivate only pure devotional service. Okay, so that is the point. So if you see this text 10, Tatrado Shushtu Vaishishtyam Asya Kathayitum Sputam Lakshanam Kriyate Bhaktir Uttamayaha Satam Matam. In the first wave of chapter, in order to describe clearly the superiority of bhakti to other processes, the unique characteristics of Uttama Bhakti will be related as approved by the Acharyas. So it's not only just bhakti or which is mixed with something, it's Uttama Bhakti. It is pure devotional service. Right? Okay. So it's already 8:48, but we'll just see the definition of pure devotional service. And then we'll read the commentary maybe tomorrow. And then we'll also start with chapter 1. So, this is a very famous verse. Srila Prabhupada quotes it almost 400 to 500 times in all of his teachings. Anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karma tyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. First class devotional service is known by one's tendency to be fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord favorably. Okay. So this is first class devotional service, where one's tendency is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord favorably. Okay. And then he writes his purport to that. So before seeing that, we'll just see the translation that Srila Prabhupada gives in his Bhagavatam purport. This is Canto 5, chapter 17:11. He says, this is the actual translation of this verse. He says, one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Right? One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably, it is anukulya, without desire for material profit, anya bhilashita, or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. Jnana karma dhyanavritam. That is called pure devotional service. So, Lord Krishna favorably is Krishna Anushilanam. Sorry, rendering transcendental loving service is Anushilanam. To the Supreme Lord Krishna is Krishna, and favorably is Anukulya. And without desire for material profit and gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation is your Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavritam. That is called pure devotional service. And we will also see that Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary, he divides this particular verse into two. One he calls as Swarup Lakshana and Tatastha Lakshana. So we are speaking about pure devotional service, about Uttama Bhakti. So Uttama Bhakti, what is the primary characteristic or primary definition of Uttama Bhakti? It should be Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. It should be Anukulya, favorable to the Lord. It should be for Krishna only. It should not be for any of the demigods or any other living entity. And it should be Anushilanam. And The constant endeavor should be there to satisfy Krishna favorably, and it should be with respect to following the previous acharyas. Anushilanam. Anu means continuous, and Anu also means with a desire or following the footsteps of previous acharyas or the spiritual master. So Anushilanam means that. So these three are the Swarupa Lakshana or the primary characteristics of the defining of Uttama Bhakti. Secondary characteristic is this Anyabhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dhyanavrtam. Okay, only Anyabhilashita Shunyam and Jnana Karma Dhyanavrtam does not in itself complete Uttama Bhakti or does not give any definition of Bhakti at all. Correct? There is no Abhilasha for Jnana and Karma. No, it's a negative definition. It's negative. There's nothing positive about Bhakti. So therefore it's categorized as Tatastha Lakshana, as a secondary characteristic. But what is the positive characteristics? What is the primary characteristics? Anukulyana Krishna Anushilanam. It's a constant endeavor to satisfy Krishna. It should be for the benefit of Krishna. It should be favorable to Krishna. That is primary characteristics. So the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, is that one may also be in Krishna consciousness unfavorably. Right? He says, serving the Lord favorably, but one may also be in Krishna consciousness unfavorably, but that cannot be counted as pure devotional service. Pure devotional service should be free from the desire for any material benefit or for sense gratification, as these desires are cultivated through fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. Jnana karma anavritam. Generally, people are engaged in different activities to get some material profit, while most philosophers are engaged in proposing transcendental realization through volumes of word jugglery and speculation. So he is speaking, basically elaborating on jnana and karma. Pure devotional service must always be free from such fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. One has to learn Krishna consciousness or pure devotional service from the authorities by spontaneous loving service, which means that devotional service should lead one to spontaneous loving service. So that is proper devotional service. One should not get stuck in sadhana bhakti only. I am doing sadhana bhakti for years and years and years together, probably from many lifetimes also. Sadhana bhakti is supposed to lead one to bhava bhakti and then ultimately to prema bhakti. So that is the goal. We should not get stuck in sadhana bhakti. So this is the indication that Srila Prabhupada gives when he says that one has to learn Krishna consciousness or pure devotional service from the authorities by spontaneous loving service. So it should be spontaneous. That is why it is called as Uttama Bhakti. Uttama Bhakti means spontaneous devotional service. Minimum Raganuga sadhana, and then from then on bhava and prema. What is the goal of life? The goal of life is to attain love of Krishna. That is prema bhakti. Right? So that should be the goal. And the book's attempt, or whatever is Srila Rupa Goswami presents here, is not to stop one to sadhana bhakti. It is supposed to take one to prema bhakti, bhava bhakti. And those characteristics are then explained subsequently. So this is the meaning of Uttama Bhakti. One is, it should be anukulya to Krishna, and it should be anushilanam. It should be cultivated, it should be cultured, it should be practiced. Or worshipping of Krishna should be done by following the previous acharyas, and it should not be intermittent. It should be continuous. Right. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, if we see, this is a longer section. So there are almost, I think, 14 or 15 paragraphs that Srila Prabhupada writes explaining this one verse. Okay, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. So this is part of introduction. And after this, then he will quote a verse from Shastra. You see, Anyabhilashita Shunyam is not a verse from any scripture. Okay, it's something which Rupa Goswami is writing in his book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. For us, it's scripture, correct. But then he's not quoting, or this is not a verse which is found in any of the Vedas, in the Shuddhi or Smriti, like that. So to substantiate his definition of Uttama Bhakti, Rupa Goswami gives another verse, Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam, Tatparatvena Nirmalam, Krishikena Hrishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchama. So this verse is from Narada Pancharatra. Then it is Vedic. And Rupa Goswami substantiates his definition of devotional service by referring to the Vedas. And with that, the introduction ends. Okay, so I will stop now. So tomorrow we will see the commentaries of Acharyas along with Srila Prabhupada's purport to this particular verse. And we'll see some technical things, and then we'll also see the Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam. And after that, we will discuss in brief the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. So these 6 characteristics, which we should understand, do not manifest when the devotional service is mixed. They manifest when devotional service is pure. So whatever we discuss from now on, just to again reiterate, whatever you discuss in Nectar of Devotion is a characteristics, or all these things are meant to take one to pure devotional service. Mixed devotional service will not lead to bhava or prema, or will not lead to relishing of rasas in transcendental relationship with Krishna. So mixed devotional service should be given up. That is why the definition specifically says jnana karma dhyanavritam. It should be free from jnana and karma. So no varnashrama principles are encouraged here. Right. So we will stop. Do you have any questions? You can take questions. Okay. So one thing I just want to suggest is, while going through these classes, if you have your book also along with you, then you can probably make a note in a separate notebook with the corresponding paragraph number and what is being speaking about. Okay, because from the exam's point of view, when you read, it will not be structured like this. No, the verses will not be there. It's a continuous text. So we have to be focused to make sure that we follow the thread of what Srila Prabhupada is writing. And that will be easier if you have the book along with a notebook, and then you make the corresponding references also. That this particular paragraph is speaking about this particular point, maybe those points which I highlighted here. So that way it will be useful for you to study for the exam, obviously, and also in your future references also. Do it. Okay, so I'll stop here and we'll continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki, Nectar of Devotion ki.